Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey. I want to talk to you about something. This is a talky video. There's not going to be that many pens involved in this video. Just wanted to talk to you about something, and it's something that has been playing on my mind for many years since I started Fountain Pen Journey. Back in 2017, sorry, I started Fountain Pen Journey when I first discovered or rediscovered fountain pens. My introductory video's out there, so please feel free to take a look about what it's all about. What is Fountain Pen Journey? It's all there. And I concentrated on the cheapest fountain pens that I could find, and I still do to a certain extent. And those fountain pens cost pounds back then. Prices have crept up. China now seems to think that £40 is acceptable for a Chinese fountain pen, and in many cases the quality is there. So it's not like anything has really changed from the standpoint of the manufacturers. You can still buy really cheap fountain pens, especially from China, direct. You can go on AliExpress, even eBay, and buy a really cheap fountain pen that actually writes really well. You can spend a lot more on a fountain pen. And one thing that has come up over my time going through forums, fountain pen Facebook groups, things like that, is how some people are quite happy to blow an awful lot of money on fountain pens. And I say blow because it really is. I mean, unless you have a collection, a fountain pen as a writing tool, let's face it, Jinhao Centennial, 10 quid, which in my mind is expensive for a Jinhao. I have seen these things go for £26, which is quite honestly ludicrous for a Jinhao fountain pen. But the fountain pen that these things emulate or copy costs an awful lot more. The Parker Duofold Centennial. Is that pen worth it? Well, yes, absolutely. I've never used one, but from what I'm seeing throughout my experience of going through the forums and all the other fountain pen resources there are, the Parker Duofold is one of those really good pens that you're going to be happy with. Several £100 or over £100 for a fountain pen. Is it too high? Maybe. For some people it certainly is. For me, it really would have to be an absolute one-off. I would have to have a very, very good reason to justify that sort of spend on a pen. I have a collection. I like them. I like buying affordable fountain pens. I like buying things like this. The Narwhal Original. It doesn't cost the earth. But some people might look at this and say, well, you're paying more than £20 for a pen, £30, £40, something like that. It's a pen. I wouldn't even spend that on, a pen that I needed. Some people might spend similar sort of money on a ballpoint or a rollerball pen. But at the end of the day, that is their choice. And if you go to work, for example, and you want a nice pen in your pocket, you stick it in your pocket, you may well just buy that one pen, or it may be gifted to you. Friends, family, somebody might give you a give you a pen that you enjoy writing with, and you think, well, this is a nice status symbol, a bit like Mont Blanc in the 80s. All the yuppies had Mont Blanc fountain pens. Status symbol. Good pens, but at the end of the day, status symbol. So I remember I worked with one guy, and he had a Mont Blanc ballpoint pen, which was gifted to him by his company. They were an oil and gas manufacturer, and it had diamonds, I'm guessing very, very low grade diamonds, embedded in the cap finial, which was a very nice gift, and he loved this pen and he used it all the time. Very proud of it. And I've worked with other people who have had similar sorts of pens, but maybe only spent £50 on them because they just wanted a nice pen, and they don't mind spending the money on the stupidly expensive rollerball refills, things like that. So what I want to get to is, how much would you pay for a fountain pen? What do you feel is reasonable? Because I see an awful lot of posts on social media, NPD, hashtag NPD, New Pen Day, that's what it stands for, New Pen Day. And they have basically blown like a mortgage payment on a fountain pen. Good for them. If you got the money, spend your money however you want. I always concentrate on the cheaper fountain pens. I'm not one for spending huge amounts of money on very expensive fountain pens. And I remember Matt from the Pen Habit, really good series of videos, really good YouTuber, really good channel. Unfortunately, he gave it up, and I wish him all the best, and I hope that if he does ever see this or watch this, he's doing well. And he'd been in the whole fountain pen thing for a year, and it nearly bankrupted him, because he saw all these beautiful pens and he had to have all the beautiful pens and try all the beautiful pens, and you go off and go to different places and buy pens, and yeah, you run the risk potentially of getting yourself into financial difficulties. Now here we are in 2022. We've had 2 solid years of this, quite honestly, now farcical, certainly in the UK, farcical pandemic. Money is getting tight. Oil and gas prices have gone through the roof. I mean, I'm now paying maybe a third or maybe even more than that just to fill up my car with petrol. Thankfully, it's not too big a deal. Gas and electric, especially electricity, because of the way that it's generated, and forget about renewables, because if renewables were any good and we had enough of them, we wouldn't be in this situation in the UK. And I don't want to turn this into a political debate about everything, but I'm just putting this in context. Everybody's cost of living is increasing dramatically. Ours has. What I was willing to spend on fountain pens and blow on all sorts of fountain pens even a few months ago in 2022, I am no longer doing that. Not a chance, because I don't know what else is coming around the corner. Inflation is on the increase. I'm not going to go, I'm going to spend 50 quid on something. Recently I wanted the 2020 TWSBI Eco in jade. Not an expensive fountain pen. Certainly not one that I would ever really complain about spending that sort of money on. I didn't buy it. I did not buy it because I couldn't really justify it to myself at the time. It was worth whatever spending money I've got, my disposable income, spending on this fountain pen or any others of a very similar price. It was affordable. It was well within reach, but I just didn't want to spend that money on it. However, Father's Day came up and my wife said, well, do your usual thing, there's a budget, spend it. I don't want to buy you presents, you choose your own. So this was one of those. So Father's Day present. Something that I would normally have just bought for myself. Same with the Lamy All-Star White Silver. Absolutely wanted it in my collection, even though it's so similar to every other Lamy Safari, but I was not going to buy it myself. I thought, you know what, I've got a budget, don't really know what to get myself, but I want these 2 pens, and that's why I bought them. It's straightforward. It was not something where I felt it was worth justifying that spend any other time of the year. What am I trying to get to with all of this? So if you've managed to watch through the first 9 minutes, then well done. This is what I'm going to talk about now. Fountain pens are items that you do not need. You don't need it. You don't need many items. It doesn't matter what it is. Some people spend money on, I don't know, try and think of something. Some other hobby that you collect. Postcards, stamps, whatever it is, I don't know, trains, stuff like that. Things like that get expensive. Fountain pens, I start off going from gin house, lowest end of the fountain pen spectrum, probably still buy them on eBay, not the Jinhao 100 Centennial, this one. But you can still buy Jinhao 51As for a couple of pounds, few pounds, £3 or £4 maximum. Online from eBay, AliExpress, things like that, and they're really good. They write. That's it. You could just go, well, my personal fountain pen journey is over. I bought a few Jinhao 51As. That's it. Me done. No more spending. Spent 10 quid on a few pens. That's it. Fantastic. You're happy. But then you get hooked in. And stuff like this happens. Beautiful colours. Nice chatoyancy. Edison Collier. Really lovely pen. You can get really nice acrylics in Chinese fountain pens. But that happened to be one of the pens that I saw many years ago. Probably about 2018. And I wanted one. And then maybe a year or two later, I found one in this beautiful colour that I really, really wanted, second hand. Now that's something that you do need to think about. Second hand fountain pens. And I'm sorry to say it, but some people, I've already seen it on Facebook, people are finding that the cost of living is driving the price of things up. So something like, and I feel very sorry, and I hope I never personally end up in this situation, but I've seen people selling a fountain pen like this because they need the money to pay for a repair on their car, because the cost of living means that that bit of disposable income that they had isn't going to be enough to cover something like that. It's out of budget. Energy, as I've already said, going up. The prices are going up. They still are, and they are guaranteed pretty much to go up for at least the next year, maybe less. And that is a lot of money to spend on something that you need. And this is where fountain pens are not a necessity. I have dozens and dozens, possibly hundreds, of fountain pens. Do I need any more? No, I don't. But I'm going to still buy them because that's what I do. I have this disposable income, but I'm very selective about what I purchase now. Over the last couple of months, 3 months maybe, I've seen and had to just let go. Some fountain pens, second hand, on eBay, things like that. They're affordable. I would have bought them. 2 years ago, I would have bought them, no doubt. I would have bought those pens. But I just thought, I don't like them enough to warrant that amount of spend. Because spending money right now is something that is a little bit tight. And I see people even selling off their little bottles of Diamine ink. You know, they're cheap as chips, those little bottles of ink. I haven't actually got one here. Cheap as chips. But people are going, you know what, there's 6 inks that I do not use in bottles. They've had partial fills and all the rest of it, so they're pretty much full, and I want to sell these. And I'm not going to make a lot of money out of it, but I'm just getting rid of things like that which aren't necessary. And I think this is where you or we may all need to be considering what we actually spend on our fountain pens, because I think the problem is that a lot of the manufacturing costs for everything have gone up, and that is obviously going to be passed on to the consumer, whether you're in business or whether you're people like you and I, just fountain pen users. We buy fountain pens because we enjoy them, we like them, we love doing the writing, we love all aspects of the hobby. But at the end of the day, if you said, well, you know, this Lamy All-Star in early 2022 costs £25, and by the end of 2023 it's going to cost £50, would I have bought this pen even as a gift? No, probably not. But unfortunately this is the state of the world we're in, and I think now is the time to actually reevaluate whether you want to stop collecting fountain pens or whatever it is, whether you want to curb your spending, whether you want to even sell your pens. You know, this is the important decision you need to make, and this is something that I've already considered. I've even thought, you know what, Do I sell some of the pens that I just don't use? Some of the things that I'm just never going to use, do I sell them? But no, I thought it's part of a collection. But my collecting has slowed down, and over the course of my own fountain pen journey, which is why I call this channel Fountain Pen Journey, it is simply a case of I went from buy a couple of pens and 3 different colours of ink, and then when I very quickly discovered that there are more than 2 Jinhao fountain pens, I bought more, and then I discovered more Jinhao models, and it started to go up and up and up, and I ended up discovering cheap Chinese fountain pens. So suddenly things like Delike, Moonman came into the picture, and yeah, spending. And I actually dread to think how much I spent on cheap fountain pens in the beginning, because there probably were a few times where my finances for that month were a bit ropey, bit dodgy, because I'd spent so much money. It doesn't matter, I've bought a handful of pens, you know. Oh, next week another handful of pens have arrived. How much money was actually being spent? I could have bought perhaps one of these fountain pens, and that would have been the end of it, and just said, yeah, I've bought myself a really good quality, nice, not too expensive fountain pen, been very, very happy, and that was the end of it. But Fountain Pen Journey didn't stop there. I'm a collector. I enjoy collecting things, and you know, you start moving on from the cheap Chinese fountain pens to, if you like, stuff like this, you know. I mean, I've got Pelikan. I've always liked Pelikan fountain pens. Buy 1 or 2 of those, and you know that could be your entire pen budget for the year just gone. One of those, Pelikan M200, is theoretically, when all things considered, worth about 10 of these. Buy 10 of those, and I bought. I'm not, the Jinhao 100 Centennial was not around when I first started Fountain Pen Journey. Call it 10 quid a piece. 10 of those equals 1 Pelikan M200. I bought a lot of cheap Jinhao fountain pens. So yeah, it's an ongoing situation, and it is something that even without financial potential hardships on the horizon, I don't think that any of us should be too complacent about how we spend our money on fountain pens. I'm not saying I'm going to be a miserable old git, don't buy any more fountain pens. I'm just saying, you know what, you just need to be a bit more cautious, because some people, and I've seen this, certainly on Facebook, I've seen it, people have got into financial difficulty because they had a pen budget, whatever that pen budget is. It could be £10 or it could be £500, because I know some people have a pen budget like that. Lucky people. They might just go, you know what, I've spent far too much, or worst of all, I've overspent on my pen budget. Budget for everything. You budget for your own personal finances, so why on earth wouldn't you budget for something which isn't necessary? These pens are absolutely not necessary. All of these have been bought over a range of years. I mean, you know, stuff like this. This is a classic example. Narwhal Original. Really like the look of it. One night I was sitting there writing, got an email from Cult Pens. By the way, not to help penable anybody, but I'll put a link for 10% off into my description below for 10% off at Cult Pens. You may have to create a new account, but I think that works. Yeah, Narwhal Original. Where was I? Narwhal Original fountain pen in yellow tang. Really wanted it. Didn't buy it. Held off because I thought, no, don't need it. When did I choose the moment to buy it? When I was right in the middle of all the finances of moving house. Stupid decision, really. But I really wanted it. And it was on offer. I would not have bought this pen without the 10% off code, so it's all about the 10% off, things like that, 20% sometimes. Things like that can really help sway your decision. But even at a really cheap price, is it something that you can afford? And this is where you have to say, you know what, I'm going to miss it. I may be able to get one in a few years' time if it's if you like a standard production model, and things like this Pelican M200 Iconic Blue special edition no longer available. But you know, that's the way it goes. Sometimes you do just have to be very, if you like, judicious about your spending and say, this month I can't afford it. I can't afford that spend because it is just too much money. It's just not worth putting yourself into the stresses and the strains of worrying about your finances, all for the sake of something that you don't actually need. Ask yourself this question: do you have a good fountain pen that you enjoy writing with? Yes? I'm guessing that you do. In that case, do you need to spend any money this month on that pen that you want? You don't really. It's not necessary. So, cost of living crisis, just watch your spending, because I don't want to hear anyone in the fountain pen community go, I've completely overspent and I've now got a whole load of pens. I mean, this was bought at a time when I shouldn't have bought it. Did I ink it up immediately and start writing with it and enjoying it? I didn't. It sat in its box. I think it was still actually in the envelope it came in, unused, for nearly a year. But it was an impulse buy. I had to have it. Did I need it? Absolutely not. I have had a few pens which have sat in their padded Jiffy envelopes for over a year. In fact, over 2 years sometimes, because I have that mentality, collector mentality. Must have it. Must have one of those. Yes, there's one there. Yes, it's the right price. Spend the money. And then you don't enjoy it. Why did I spend the money? Why do we spend the money? Because I see this so many times. People make the mistake of going, I must have this thing, I must have that. It's necessary for my, I don't know, for my brain to have that thing. You know, you get that rush, you buy it, and then you don't actually use it in the end. Or you have something else that you toss aside because, you know, you wanted that then and everything else. If you don't have a collection, thin things down. I know that Anthony Newman, very big character in the UK pen community, well-respected guy, he did a thing a few months ago called, and the term became coined in the UK fountain pen community as Newmanizing. And basically, he Newmanized his collection. And he went through his pen trays and said, well, I've got a selection of 10 pens here. Which will I actually want to keep? And he went through his pens and he sold them and basically offloaded stuff that he did not want or did not see himself using anymore. And for whatever reason, you know, he Newmanized his fountain pen collection. And I think sometimes that is something that some of us may have to do, either for, you know, just ease, because it's, you know, you've got pens that you just don't use, and if they're not sitting there being used, it's nicer for somebody else who does want one to be able to use it. And other times people might say, you know what, I actually just want to get some money back on these because it's just not worth it. I've spent the money and now it's lost. So now I've got, I wouldn't say an asset. Fountain pens are not assets. You will not get your money back on a fountain pen purchase. You may do if you're lucky, if you buy some special edition or limited edition fountain pen, but several years down the line when it's completely unobtainable, yes, one collector out there will pay that price for that fountain pen, but you're not going to make a lot of money on anything else. I mean, Jinhao 100 Centennial, you pay £10 for it, you're not going to get £10 for it. You'll get 9 or 8, and it will sell because it's, you know, it's a bargain then to somebody else, but you're not going to get your money back on it. Narwhal original, you're not going to get your money back on it. You're just not. fountain pens are not those sorts of things. Even the high-end ones, you're going to be lucky to get one for a price where it becomes sellable at a profit that's worth it. It's going to go for the same value. You know, the only thing you can hope for is the rate of inflation. Buy a £1,000 pen now, and hopefully in 10 or 20 years with inflation, but you could have invested that money anyway, and it would have been worth more. So yeah, fountain pen buying, it's something that I think many of us should be aware of these days. And I'm not saying to stop buying fountain pens. You know, do what you love, enjoy it, but enjoyment, you know, it's not always about spending all of that money. Sometimes enjoyment can be about saying, you know what, I'm financially comfortable, I'm happy doing what I do, but I've got the pens that I need to write with. For me personally, and this channel, all I can say is I've got an awful lot of pens to review, so you will be seeing more of those in due course. So it's not like anything's going to change from that perspective. And, you know, 2 recent pen acquisitions, 2022, you know, there will be more. No doubt there will be more. Yeah, I'm not even going to go through all of these. I've got a few here and I've got a few over here. I'll give you, bear with me 1 minute. Right. There we go. Whole tray of fountain pens. Whole tray of them. Purchased on a whim. Any of them used? Not by me. So yeah, I've got an awful lot of work to do for Fountain Pen Journey to keep bringing you reviews and videos and all the rest of it. And I hope that this conversational video hasn't bored you too much and just given you some food for thought, because spending, you know, money on something which can make your life miserable in the long run, it's not worth it. So watch the videos, don't necessarily go out and buy the pen. Watch the video and then think, you know what, I can afford this. This is worth it, and this is one of the reasons that I get into fountain pens. I mean, these things, I can't even remember the name of it. Langby 2 3098. I can't even see it. I haven't got my glasses, but the Platinum Curidas rip-off retractable fountain pen, Langby 2. I really like them. Haven't reviewed them. I've bought a few of these. I've written with quite a number of these over the time since they came out. And the funny thing is, they're actually really good value compared to the Platinum Curidas. And what made it worse was a couple of months after some of the new colours came out, Langby 2 then, or some of the sellers obviously wanted to clear stock, and I was picking these up for about $6. Ultimately affordable, really good fountain pen for $6. Well happy. Did that break the bank? Absolutely not. It was 2 pens that cost $6 each, so call it 12 quid spent in a month, and got 2 really nice pens. Well worth it. Good value. And I think this is the thing, you value what something is worth, and if something isn't worth that sort of price, let me have a look through here, see what we've got. Pick something decent. No, not that. If something is valuable, I mean, you could buy a Parker Duofold Centennial, or you could buy a Jinhao 100 Centennial, or a Kaiglu. They all look the same, they all write. These are available in nice finishes too, and the Jinhao 100 Centennial basically even copies the Parker Duofold Centennial colours. So, you know, there's an awful lot of stuff out there. you don't have to spend that money. If you want something that's just aesthetically pleasing and ticks that box, you don't need to spend that money. But if you do and you want to, go for it. You know, you can afford it if you think about it before you do anything crazy. So I hope that this video has given you something to think about. It's been a bit long and it's been a bit talky, but I haven't done a talky video for a long time. So I hope you're all well. I hope you're all being careful with what you do, what you spend, how you do it, and what you make on your fountain pens if you do decide to sell them. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye.